Hey, special educators. Welcome to Teach, Taskbox, Inspire, the podcast dedicated to making your job as a special education teacher easier by making your instruction more fun for you and your students. Inside each episode, you'll learn how to get the most use out of your task boxes in the classroom. I'm your host, Lisa Holiday from Chalkboard Superhero, a veteran special education teacher passionate about empowering you with purposeful teaching strategies, helpful tips and tricks, and other classroom management tools that will help you thrive in your role. Let's get started with today's episode.
Hey there, special educators, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Taskbox, Inspire. I'm your host, Lisa Holiday, and today we're talking about something that's kind of been on my brain a lot because of basically the classroom that I'm in right now and kind of the job that I've kind of moved away from the self-contained setting and into the inclusion setting. And I've come up with a lot of my students have had ADHD. And so I've kind of been on this whole deep dive about ADHD and tips and tricks on, what you can use inside the classroom. And I kind of wanted to share these tips and tricks that I've kind of been using and shared them with you guys. So I really want to start by unpacking practical, doable strategies that you can start in your classroom tomorrow. From like how you can set up your classroom to routines or even behavior supports. Whether you're teaching in a self-contained setting or in inclusion, this episode will be for you. So grab your coffee or maybe even your favorite fidget because I already have one nearby, and let's dive in. Before we talk about the how, let's really take a second and talk about the why. ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, isn't just about being quote unquote hyper or distracted. It's about how the brain processes attention, motivation, and regulation. So students with ADHD often have what I like to call a Ferrari brain with bicycle brakes. They're smart, they're creative, they're full of ideas, but they really struggle to slow down, filter, and focus. So common struggles might include they have difficulty sustaining attention, especially on non-preferred tasks. They're impulsive, they're blurting out, they're interrupting, they're acting before they even think about things. Honestly, hyperactivity is right there. They need to move or fidget constantly. Their body is always in motion. And they have trouble with organization, planning, even task initiation. But here's what's equally important. ADHD isn't a behavior problem. Think about that, people. It's a self-regulation challenge. When we shift our mindset from won't to can't yet, we can start teaching skills instead of punishing all the symptoms. And I know a lot of you are sitting there like, you haven't met Johnny yet because he's just bad. I know we want to say that, and I know we want to blame the behavior, but please, guys, let's say, okay, don't say he won't do this, he won't do this, he won't get started with work, he won't, listen to me. It's not that he won't, he can't. And I say he because there are a lot more students with ADHD who are boys than girls. And I've found that when you meet these students where they are with visuals, structure, movement, and empathy, really, the magic starts to happen. All right, so let's start with your classroom setup because that's first and foremost. I know it's a little bit into the year already, but let's talk about it. Because environment matters big time for students with ADHD. Number one, visual organization is everything. I want you to try to keep your walls purposeful, not overstimulating. Try to use color coding for subjects or centers. Think visual calm, not visual chaos. All right, number two, quick, defined workspaces. I want you to try to create clear, structured work areas. Maybe there's an independence station or a calm down area or work area. You want to have visual boundaries so ADHD students understand expectations. Number three, and a lot of people hate this because they're getting away from it, but flexible seating works. So you have to be able to teach flexible seating before just offering it to them. And sometimes you have to teach them that, that might not work for you. So things like wobble stools or seat cushions, standing desks, or even floor clipboards, these can all be game changers. Because remember, movement helps the brain focus. It doesn't distract from it. There are typical students who this might be distracting for them, but students with ADHD, it actually helps them focus. So you want to teach them how to use it. And sometimes when I see a student using a flexible seating option that they just keep falling out of or whatnot, I might say, I see that flexible seating doesn't really work for you. You might want to pick something else. All right, number 4, limit clutter. If your ADHD student can see it, they'll think about it. So I want you to store materials in bins, cover shelves with fabric, and, keep out only what you need. And sometimes even using like little tiny dividers on the desk to try to keep them focused. And the last thing I want to talk about is sensory-friendly tools. So things like quiet fidgets or noise-canceling headphones or even weighted lap pads can help students with ADHD. But we also need to teach them how to use it. Just like with flexible seating, fidgets aren't toys, right? We want to teach them that they're tools to help us focus. And as soon as they become a toy, I kind of will take that away from them and say, okay, you're using this as a toy, not to help you focus. And then I'll have a whole teachable moment about how we use these things to help us focus, not distract us. So let's say I have a student named Michael. He just could not, for the life of him, stop tapping his pencil. We finally switched to a fidget cube that made no sound. And within 2 days, he was really focusing. It wasn't that he was being disruptive. His body just needed that outlet. All right, so let's talk about routines, because structure isn't boring. It's freedom for ADHD students. They thrive when they know what's coming next. So I want you to make sure that you have consistent routines. I want you to start and end class the same way every single day. Predictability lowers anxiety. And that's even for people with no disability, right? You want to make sure you have a visual schedule. So even in 5th grade, like the students that I have, we have a written schedule out. It doesn't have to be with pictures. It doesn't have to be with photos. It doesn't have to look like a baby wrote it, right? Sometimes I'll whip out a whiteboard and just write a little checklist of the things that are coming next. Use also timers for transitions. So visual timers or countdowns really help students manage their time and shift gears. And you also want to kind of chunk directions. I never really give more than 1 or 2 steps at a time because after the second step, they've lost it already because they have a hard time with that holding on to information because their frontal lobes are so sleepy. So you also want to make sure you have built-in movement breaks. So every 20 minutes, taking a 2-minute brain break, go to the water fountain, go to the bathroom, walk around the room, put your pencil away, something really super fast to help them get their brain off of whatever it is they're doing can make a huge difference. All right, let's talk about real quick how you teach, because the best instructions for students with ADHD is structured, engaging, and active. So you kind of want to break lessons into chunks. Think sprints, not marathons. So 5 5-minute tasks beats 1 25-minute task every single time. Number 2, multisensory teaching. Engage the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic channels every single time you teach. So you want to be using manipulatives and movement and visuals and songs and kind of like all of it. Sometimes it can feel like a little bit circusy because we're trying to juggle all of the things all of the time, but tapping into each person's type of learning really helps students with ADHD. Number 3, active participation. So you want to get them involved, right? Use whiteboards and response cards or group work or partner teaching. The more engaged they are, the less room that they have for any type of distraction. Number 4, explicitly teach executive functioning skills. And I'm really talking to special education teachers out there. You really want to show them how to organize their planners, how to organize their notebooks, how to organize their lockers, how to color code their assignments. If they don't have somebody teaching them these things, they will not learn it. You want to model what it looks like to plan a paragraph or prioritize tasks. They don't know how to do it, so they have to be explicitly taught how to do it. And the last thing I'm going to say about that is you want to reward what you see. Please do not over-focus on what you don't see. Instead of saying, stop blurting out or stop talking when it's not your turn, you're going to say, I love how you raised your hand before sharing. Thank you so much, Michael. That's way better than constantly focusing on the negative. All right, let's talk really quick about behavior and emotional regulation. So ADHD and emotional dysregulation really go hand in hand. These kids feel deeply excitement, frustration, embarrassment. It's all heightened. So they need to co-regulate first, right? When they're upset, you have to be the calm in the storm. Lower your voice, slow your tone, and give them space. Then I want you to teach them emotional vocabulary. Have them label their emotions. I can see you're frustrated. Let's take a break, right? Then they need to learn that breaks are not rewards. They're regulation tools. When we use breaks, this prevents behavior blowups. You also want to create a calm down corner. It doesn't have to be big, but you want an area where they can just sit, have visuals, fidgets, deep breathing cards, affirmation. Remember, this is not a fun place. This is just a place for them to kind of get back to baseline. And last, and certainly not least, please avoid power struggles. You guys pick your battles. Students with ADHD will constantly push back if they feel cornered. So instead, offer them calm choices. Would you like to finish that now or during independent time? Would you like to work with Johnny over here or over there? Would you like to work with this in the hallway or at your seat? Constant choices give them a little bit of power instead of constantly struggling with that. And rapid fire here, I want to go over some quick, friendly hacks you can try this week. Number 1, use highlighters to mark key steps and directions. Number 2, keep extra copies of assignments for the I lost it moment. I've been doing that so many times this year. Number 3, add Velcro strips under the desk for that tactile input. Number 4, dry erase sleeves to reduce paper overload. Just put the sleeve over the paper and they can use a whiteboard marker. Number 5, give think breaks before redirection. Number 6, use positive narration. I love how Mia started her paragraph instead of calling out for off-task behavior. And my favorite, catch them being good. Anytime that you see them being good, celebrate the small wins. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope this episode helped you. I know it was super fast, but that's all I have. Thank you for tuning in this week. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Teach, Taskbox, Inspire. I hope you've gained some tips and motivation to fuel your week ahead. If you're ready to explore more strategies for empowering your students as independent learners, be sure to dive into my free training at chalkboardsuperhero.com/training. And don't keep all this knowledge to yourself. Share this episode with your special education teacher friends who could use some motivation and inspiration. One more thing before you go. If you're finding this podcast helpful and want to show support, head to Apple Podcasts and leave your rating and review. Until next time, keep teaching, taskboxing, and inspiring.